Hey guys, Mike Sutton here, and this is the intro to episode 101 of the Be Build Have podcast. It's also the next amazing interview in my Pain to Profit interview series. And the reason I do these interviews with the people that I do them with is because they can all speak to building a business that they're happy with, that they love, living a life with success and fulfillment and happiness when that wasn't always the case. If you're like me, I've been at that place where I was unhappy with the business was building, hated it, couldn't enjoy the results I was getting. I was frustrated. I was struggling with depression, anxiety, fear, low self-esteem. So I wasn't getting the results that I wanted. And even when I was getting results, I wasn't happy with them. And all these guests can speak to that because what I want you to hear is even if you're in that situation, it doesn't have to be that way. There is another side to it. Just stick with it, keep looking for the answers, keep moving forward. But I do have two quick announcements before I go to the video. The first is if you're watching the video of this, which you can find on my website at bebuildhave.com/101 for the episode number 101, then you'll notice that maybe the video isn't the best on my side. I had a camera setting off on my side of the video that makes it look a little bit choppy. I'm totally sorry for that, but I've added it to my checklist, so I'll try not to let that happen again. The guests video and the audio for the podcast are just fine, so you should still be able to enjoy the video. If you're listening in the podcast, Be Have podcast on iTunes or on Stitcher, you won't even notice. You'll just hear the interview. Everything will be awesome. The other quick announcement is that I am my own sponsor for this show and for the entire video series. I've had people reaching out to me to find out how can we work together. I do offer one-on-one coaching services. I have some group coaching programs. If you want to find out how to work with me, you can head over again to bebuildhave.com and look for the tab at the top of the page that says Work with Mike. Or you can go straight to bebuildhave.com/WWM for Work with Mike. So I just wanted to get those two things out, and I will get you right away now over to the interview. I'll be setting it up and introducing the guest. We had a great conversation. I think you're going to really enjoy this one. I loved doing this interview, had an amazing guest. So enjoy the interview, and we'll touch base again at the end. Hey everyone, Mike back once again, and I am super excited. I have a network marketing superstar trainer. This guy puts out more content than I think anybody I know. Just referenced that he has 150,000 downloads per month on his podcast, which I mean, I'm just so excited to talk to this guy. We're going to jump right in. I have with me today Mr. Ray Higdon.
Hey, how are you, Mike?
There he is. I'm good, Ray. How's everything going out there? You're down in Florida, right?
I am. Yes, right now I am.
So a little warmer down there than what we have up here in the Northeast.
I would imagine.
All right. So you do a lot of network marketing training. You do a network marketing business yourself. I see your videos. I listen to your podcast. And when I listen to your podcast, the thing that I hear over and over again is people write in and ask questions about how do I handle this situation? How do I say this thing? How do I set this up? And it seems like every time you answer that question, you start with, well, it's more important that you talk about how you answer the question than what the actual words are, the mindset behind the question. You're big
Right,
focus on mindset.
for sure.
And on this show, I talk about emotional health
Mm,
and the impact of emotional health on business, and specifically emotional traumas, because I think it really teaches us not to trust ourselves. And so a lot of times I'll talk to people who have gone through a lot of emotional healing, had come from a place of poor emotional health. I kind of feel like I don't get that sense from you. Am I reading that correctly?
that I haven't had a lot of emotional trauma.
Well, not necessarily emotional trauma, but that you have a pretty high level of emotional health. You've talked about going bankrupt after the real estate crash. You
Yeah.
talked about some fear you felt, money related on your honeymoon. But in all those cases, you talk about how you came out of it knowing you're just kind of going to be okay and that things are going to work out, and it didn't stop you up.
Well, it wasn't always that way. That's for sure. I mean, when my parents were young, they split apart, or when I was young, should I say, they split apart, and I spent the first from like age of 4 to 12, I spent with my dad and a very abusive stepmom, and so I certainly had my challenges. That I think that experience it really it set me up for extreme mental issues during high school and things like that. And, so I used to get really deeply depressed, and I used to really struggle with, about any type of rejection or any kind of let down or anything like that. And I went through a tough patch, after real estate changed for me when I was in personal foreclosure and dead broke. And I just realized that me thinking about the different situations, me being bummed out wasn't helping anybody, and it certainly wasn't helping myself. And so, for me, it's always been, if I'm thinking too much about my different struggles or situations or anything, then I just need to get to work. And getting to work it'll create different results and allow me to get past those different mental obstacles. So I've certainly had quite a few. Had some really interesting times in high school where I moved out of my house when I was late. I think my spring break sophomore year, I moved out of my mom's house and lived in basically a party house the rest of my time in high school, and failed my senior year. So yeah, I'm certainly familiar with mental trauma and and moving forward despite that stuff.
So this is actually a perfect scenario then, which highlights exactly why I do this show, because it's so easy to look at a guy like you and say, well, he's got this successful business and he does all this training and he's got all this stuff figured out. It's easy for him to be happy
Right.
and successful, and he doesn't have the challenges that I have, but that's
Right.
clearly not the case.
Yeah, it's real funny. It's so common for people to lump anyone successful into they just were born with a silver spoon and everything was great. I remember one time we took the kids, me and my wife took my kids out paddleboard, stand up paddleboarding, right? And so, we went out there, and our friend was not a close friend, but a friend of ours was the trainer. And I asked her, because the water was freezing cold. And, I know I don't get much sympathy from those in the Northeast, but, it was cold, man. And I said, do I need a wetsuit or anything? She goes, oh, no one ever falls. Right. And so I get up there, and I kept falling over and over and over and over and over. And she swims over to me and she goes, oh, it must be weird. I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, it must be weird for something not to come so easily for you.
Oh, brutal.
I'm like, interesting, right? Coming from, abused childhood, coming from, I used to not sleep for days if I had to give a public presentation, coming from, all kinds of different struggles, being dead broke twice, coming out of foreclosure. Yeah, everything's come so easily. So it's real common to think that way.
Well, that's what I want to share with these interviews, though, specifically, is that it is easy for people to look at that and say,
Yeah.
"Oh, well, it's different for you. You haven't gone through this."
Yeah.
But over and over and over and over again in these interviews, we find out that yeah, a lot of people have experienced this, and this really is why I reached out to you in the first place, is because I was thinking about network marketing probably attracts a lot of people who have this in their background, I would imagine. And we see just across our society, abuse, divorce, bullying, these things are major problems that affect a lot of people. And more
Yeah.
and more and more, employment's not an option. You have to get a job, start a business, find an
Yeah.
opportunity like network marketing. We're all kind of being pushed in that direction. And it creates this real intersection where these difficult issues have to be addressed. We can't I talk about sometimes how with a job, as for good or bad, if you're struggling with depression or anxiety, as long as you can show up and collect your paycheck every day, nobody cares if you're happy. But you can't
That's right.
get away with that in your own business.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, in a way you can, and most people they attach so much emotion to their results, not associating that it's their habits that created those results. So you can alter those habits and maybe not be super jazzed about doing those habits, create new results, and be happier about those results. So you can kind of do the same thing. It's just very rare. And as far as network marketing, I tend to recruit I want the highest end people. I was on a call yesterday with a guy his salary is over $250,000 a year, but he's freaking miserable. So I tend to recruit those kind of people. And, so there certainly are. Network marketing, the greatest thing about it is anyone can do it with zero training. And the worst thing about it is anyone can do it with zero training. And, so it's something that we do attract people of all types. I've recruited doctors that, have make millions of dollars a year. I've recruited lawyers that make millions of dollars a year. Most of them are after one thing, and that's time freedom, which they will never accomplish in their job or sometimes even in their own business.
And so that goes to kind of attracting people like you, I imagine. Because I've heard you talk
Yeah.
about making the money has kind of always been the easy part for you.
Yeah. It's, I'm kind of, I don't know. If you have a, tow truck driver and there's no offense to tow truck drivers, but a tow truck driver making very, very little money, that is not my easiest guy to recruit. But you bring me someone doing multiple six figures somewhere, I'll probably recruit them. It's pretty high likelihood. And it's just because I know they're hot buttons. And also people who make more money tend to be less skeptical and cynical. And, my wife is a lot better at dealing with skeptical and cynical people. I just don't really have the patience. So I just kind of move along. So, that's just me.
Do you find the same things generally true of the students that you're attracting into your training programs?
You know, we have different tiers. It's a great question. We have different tiers. I produce a lot of training, like my podcasts and my blogs. They are for anyone in the network marketing niche that specifically wants to improve their skills. Now, some people don't want to. There's actually a large section of people in network marketing, they don't want to improve their skills. I don't attract them. I call them system-seeking phone haters, right? These are people that don't want to talk to anybody. They just want to make the money, right? That's not my cup of tea. I don't service those people. I service people who are in network marketing that want to get better. Now, as you rise up the rank in our I guess you call it our customer escalation ladder or whatever, the training that we roll out on a daily basis is really for the masses. It's really for a lot of people. As you look at some of our coaching clients, I mean, we have coaching clients that have paid us over $50,000 to coach them. They're not at the level that I pump out the training for. They're at a different level. They're looking for things like personal branding. They're looking for lead generation. They're looking for, to create a brand that's known outside of their company, not just inside. And so we do cater different categories of people in network marketing. Our standard training, and I would suggest for anyone, I don't know if you want to turn this into a marketing show, but I would suggest for anybody, roll out more stuff for the masses, and then you can always have private groups and private coaching for people at different levels.
Yeah.
But that's what we.
I'm not in network marketing, but I've been
Yeah,
listening to
sure.
the show, Home Business
Oh,
Profits. I
cool.
don't think we said it before.
Yeah.
Which you talk a lot about network marketing, but I
Yep.
hear just the same mindset, confidence, approach, managing energy, all the things that you talk about on the podcast. I found absolutely applied. My background was in technology. I just recently sold my technology business, and the things that I needed to learn to be successful in that business were all the same things that you talk about on your podcast, which is why I enjoy it so much.
Yeah. Thanks.
And you're so right. It's all about the mindset. It's all about the energy. And the thing that I was wondering about before we started talking is like if you talk a lot about managing the energy, and I think the foundation for that is managing your own energy. So, and maybe this isn't exactly what you speak to, but how do you get people to hear past the noise of, if they don't have a awareness of their emotions, if their emotions are just screaming at them all the time with depression or anxiety, like how do you get people started to understand what you're talking about when you're talking about managing energy?
Well, when I talk about managing energy, I'm really talking about the energy of the communication transaction, right? For example, and I kind of, if I had a whiteboard, I do in the other room, but if I had a whiteboard right here, I'd draw it out for you. But basically, when a network marketer or really anyone in sales, when they have a communication with a prospect, there's them and then there's the prospect, right? And they're basically both standing upright. And sometimes, a lot of times in network marketing, the person says, ooh, no, I don't want to do that, right? And so they kind of lean away. So they're like, no, no, thanks, right? So they give off this energy of I don't really want to do it. Well, the natural inclination to someone who's not trained in sales is to go, no, 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 you don't understand. You'd be really good at it, right? And and kind of get pushy, right? Pushy doesn't work. Pushy is not a good idea. I never recommend being pushy, and instead be pulley. Ask questions and to help correct the situation, but at least not turn them off. And so sometimes if people say to me, hey, yeah, I just don't think I could do that. And I say, yeah, okay, you're probably right. And that's a very different thing, right? That's me saying, hey, yeah, you're probably right. You may not be able to do it. And a lot of times that makes them go upright and convince me on how they can do it.
Yeah.
Now I'm
So
not addicted to that,
as you
but
talk through that, I hear like pushing into that to chase after somebody feels like it's
right,
driven by neediness or
absolutely,
desperation or these kinds of
for sure.
things. So, I mean, are you saying it's more about management? You don't necessarily have to address those underlying issues if you can fix the behavioral side of it?
It's a great point. It's a great distinction in that if you are if you if you feel your internal emotions and they're needy, desperate, okay, network marketing is going to be tough. And in fact, I would say any sales is going to be tough. I had a I had a Q&A the other night, and one of my students asked me. They said, "Hey, if I'm just one away from rank advancing, should I let the person know?" And it's like they don't care. Right? They don't care about your rank advance. They don't care about, my buddy Bob Berg says, no one's going to buy your thing because of your sales quota. Right? They're going to buy it because it's of value to them. And so you have to really position yourself to, number one, not be addicted to the outcome. I mean, if and I've said this before, you may have heard it, but if you hooked a heart rate monitor up to me and you heard me get yeses and nos, you probably wouldn't see much of a difference, right? Just nos don't affect me. And that's something that I'm just not addicted to the outcome. What I am addicted to is the habits that I know will create big results for me. And the habits are me asking somebody, hey, are you open to a side project? But I'm not addicted to them saying yes to me. Okay. And that's a big difference. Most people, I think emotionally, the two biggest areas of problems emotionally on the inside for people in network marketing is, number one, they come into a business that is non-traditional, and the first thing they want is acceptance and approval. Big mistake. Okay, so they come in with this, ooh, I hope everyone agrees with my decision. Well, guess what? They don't. Right. So you're going to go to people that have jobs that they don't like, bosses that don't respect them, coworkers that don't listen to them, and you're going to say, hey, did I make the right decision to be a business owner? And they're going to say, ooh, no. Right. You're not going to get acceptance and approval. And then the second thing is that addiction to an outcome, that addiction to, well, man, my best friend said no to me. Why? What's wrong with you? I helped you move last year. And it's like a weird thing. Okay. So if you can not seek acceptance and approval, and if you can not be addicted to the outcome of someone saying yes to you, then now all you got to do is tweak your habits. That'll manage your internal emotions for the most part, that I can think of in most situations.
Were those two things, being addicted to the outcome and needing the acceptance and approval, were those lessons that you needed to learn? Like, was there a time when you struggled with those things?
Um, you know, I'm not, I've never in my life can I remember me being widely accepted and approved. I've always kind of done the weird stuff. I mean, in middle school, I was selling airheads, and I always had the kind of weird stuff like that, where I did things that other kids didn't do, and there was definitely a time where I was addicted to the outcome, and I'll tell you, I really, really struggled with that in high school and dating and things like that. I mean, I really get distraught if, a girl broke up with me or whatever. There were a couple things that helped that. And I think this was more of not being addicted to the outcome. I learned less inside of sales and more inside of really spiritual education. Studying people like Wayne Dyer, studying people like Michael Beckwith, studying people that focus on letting things go, and I did. There is a great book out there on negotiation. Someone just asked me this on my podcast, but there's a great book out there on negotiation by Herbert Cohen, who's a political negotiator, and I like what he says about negotiating. And he says in negotiations you want to care, but not that much. That's a powerful stance. And if you take that into consideration with when you're prospecting, you want to care. Yes, I'd love for this person to join, but not that much. If they say no, it's not that big of a deal. I believe in abundance, which is, from the training from Wayne Dyer, from Beckwith, from all these other guys. And so the belief in abundance, the belief that everything happens for a reason, and the belief that it's just not that big of a deal. If someone says no to me, I just move on to the next person. So I think there's a lot of different trainings that have gone into that kind of mindset, but I certainly struggled with it myself.
So it feels like the thread is kind of developing here, where you talked about that you did have struggles with depression and anxiety in high school
Sure.
tied to the abuse and home situation, went through this process of letting go. And so what links that to where you are now?
I think being the topic of your show, I think one thing that really helped me out that I never could have pinpointed this unless I went through it, and that is because of my past, of my childhood. I held a grudge against my dad, and I had some issues there. In fact, I didn't talk to him or see him for 13 years, and he had never met my sons, which he'd never met them. They were 8 and 9 years old, and I went through a seminar, and I realized that I had fixed relationship with dad on a to-do list with no priority. And what happens with to-do lists with no priority is people die, and you lose the opportunity. And so I actually did go up and see my dad back in 2009. Took my kids. He met the kids for the first time. And I didn't go there to find, business or wealth or anything like that. But it was really interesting. I went up there, and it was July 4th. That's his birthday, July 4th, 2009. And I came back home. And about 1 week later, after I came home, I got invited to a home business meeting that pitched the network marketing company that I became the #1 income earner for. And at the time, I was in personal foreclosure. And so my kind of moral to that story is you may have baggage that is there. And when you have a lot of crap in the past, that this is just my opinion and, from the trainings of others, but when you have a lot of crap in the past, it makes it difficult to focus on your future. And for me, when I clean that up, right, and it's not perfect, we're not throwing the football each day or, going to, the ball game together or anything like that. It's not perfect, but it's certainly better and different than what it was. When you clear up some of that past, you create a clearing for a future. And that is what happened for me. And, I share that story. I share it every once in a while. The very first time I shared that story right there, it was in Myrtle Beach at an event where I was asked to speak, and I shared that story. And when I was done, the guy that asked me to speak came up to me with tears running down his face, and he said, "Hey, man, I haven't seen my dad in 17 years. Tomorrow, I fly out for his funeral." And I was like, whoa, and I hadn't even planned on sharing that. I don't even know why I shared it, but something in me said, share that story, and I shared it. And so I share it now because someone may hear this, and maybe it's not your dad, maybe it's your sister, maybe it's someone else. All I can say is, for me, I went from foreclosure to a multiple $1 million a year business, and I really think the linchpin, the connect all the dots here, that repairing of that relationship was a big deal. Had a big part to do with it.
It is a really powerful story. And what I'm finding is a lot of people who have gone through this can speak to that pretty effectively, but a lot of people who are still holding on to that baggage and carrying it around and being held back and slowed down by it don't really see the connection. So they'll
Totally.
say, yes, I'm struggling, and yes, things aren't going the way I want, and yes, I'm still dragging all this baggage around,
No correlation.
but what
Right.
next? Right.
Right.
And
I,
just
I couldn't have pinpointed that. there's no way that I ever thought, you know what, I'm in foreclosure because, me and my dad don't get along. I never drew that conclusion. I didn't go up there to come back a business guru or whatever. I never would have drew that conclusion. But looking back, I can absolutely tell you, I don't believe I'd be where I am if I didn't do that.
And that's kind of what I want people to hear in these
Yeah.
stories is that you don't see the connection. I get it. It's fine that you don't see it. And it's frustrating if you're not getting the results that you want, but be open to looking at your life holistically. Look at the big picture, look at everything that's going on because if nothing else, it's all got you in common.
That's right.
And that's what you have control over. So and to fill that in, like you mentioned the foreclosure, but this also, so this would be on the tails of your kind of real estate business collapsing. Is that timing wise how that matches up?
Yeah, basically it was 2000. It was really toward the end of 2008 where it was very clear that my entire business was kaput, and that was July 2009. So yeah, by that time I had been down in the dumps for about a year, something like that, and for sure.
So what was the bridge between like the depression and anxiety in high school? It sounds like there's a bit of a gap there. Were there other areas in your life where you could feel the impact of that kind of stuff, or was it covered over by getting good results?
Um, Getting good results definitely made me feel better. Because the problem with feeling bad is if if you create the association of I feel bad, so I just can't perform what I should be doing. The problem with that is it creates results that also make you feel bad. So you feel bad, you don't do anything about it. You look at your results, they also suck. You're like, damn, this really stinks. It's like, I mean, it's just like a never ending cycle. So I created and, you know, I think when I started replacing my bad habits with good habits, there was a time where, if I was feeling down in the dumps because, someone didn't say good morning to me. I mean, I used to be really, really sensitive and really, just I was constantly looking for people to either doubt me or, I don't know, not believe I was capable. I was kind of always looking for that, right? And in some ways, it would fire me up to out to produce and show them. I'll show you, right? But in other things, it was really causing a major problem. So I would have all these bad habits, like, oh man, I don't feel that great. Let me eat some ice cream, right? And so I started replacing those things with better habits, like reading. Just the simple switch of probably when I was, God, maybe 20 years old, maybe 21 years old, I started switching my habits from those that are, mainly bad habits to, okay, you know what? I'm not feeling that great. Let me read a book. I mean, that little switch right there is a big, big deal. Now, when I was in deep foreclosure, I actually created a psychological trigger that said if I thought about how bad my life was, I had to pick up the phone. Now that's just a beast move, and most people they can't do that. But I used to speak at unemployment groups, which is kind of funny because I didn't have a job either, right? But I used to speak at unemployment groups, and the big phrase that I would tell them, and I would say, "Hey, here's something you guys don't want to hear, but you need to hear it. The ability to say woe is me shows the abundance of inactivity." And I told them instead of if you're feeling bad, do work, do some work, and will that work has. And I think of all the things I've ever read, the one resource that I've seen talk about that the best is Stephen Pressfield's The War of Art. Awesome book, really quick read it in a day or two. But I highly recommend it. He talks about resistance. And we all have resistance in our life of something that we know we should be doing that we just don't want to do. And he really nails it in that book, The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, in that do those things. And then you have a shot at changing your results. And that has the shot of making you feel better.
So where did that come from for you? I mean, it took first the recognition that I need to change these habits, and then was it just a matter of willpower from there, or persistence, or like what
It
set you
was
up to be able to do that?
just putting myself in a situation, putting myself in an environment that was conducive to that. Any job, because back then, I was in a job, and any job I ever took, I always wanted to see the path. And I never wanted to get into a job where it's like, okay, this is the top of the heap, no more growing from here. I always wanted to grow. And I think that had a lot to do with me leaving corporate America. Was I'd kind of I'd risen up the top. I didn't want to be one of the big managers because I just didn't want their lifestyle. But I think being in an environment of possible growth, and the great thing about that, if you're someone who's hungry for growth, network marketing is an amazing profession for that, because there's literally never ending growth. There's always another rank. There's always a new country. There's always a new, whatever learning that you can get under your belt. In corporate America, there is a finite number of ranks that you can rank up. And at least that's what I found. And so, I got to the top of where I wanted to go. I was making $80,000 a year, had, 2 semesters of college, and my job required a bachelor's degree, right? But I just outworked everyone. I outworked, and I did the things that I thought made sense. But when I got to a point where I didn't feel that I could grow anymore, I really think that might have turned my mind to look at different things. So if you're struggling emotionally, and, I would say get yourself in some kind of environment of possible growth. And maybe, for most people, that's a job, that doing network marketing, you gotta be tough, man. You gotta be okay with rejection. It's not for everybody. Running your own business, again, you gotta have thick skin. You gotta be prepared to battle it out on the days when, you get nonsense thrown at you. Most people, it's way safer to just be in a job, and that's the reality. But at least be in a job where you can grow. If you're in a job where you can't, for someone like me, that's just hell. I mean, that's purgatory, whatever you want to call it. So I just put myself in places of growth, which allowed those habits to pay off.
So it sounds like, as you talk through this, like I talk to a lot of people with this kind of background, and it seems like a lot of them will move towards flight, freezing. It sounds like you move a little more naturally towards fight. Is that true?
Um, you know, it. I've kind of, I'm trying to think of times where I didn't, but I've really, it's been so long, I really can't. And you are definitely making me think on this thing, because you're asking questions in, a very different way. I can't remember a time where I took flight. I know many times I wanted to take flight, but it's been so long for me to just hammer in myself that if I'm afraid of something, to charge toward it. I can't remember when that happened, and I mean, I remember,
That you didn't charge towards it.
that I didn't charge toward it.
Right.
I'll give you a great example. When I was 18, I was working at GNC and vitamin store, and I was actually making good money. I'd worked my way up to a store manager. I was making good. No, I was probably 19. I was probably 19, something like that. So I'm like probably 19. And I worked my way up store manager. I'm rocking it, and they pay you commissions, So I was making pretty good money. I mean, I think at 19 I may have been making like 35,000 a year, something like that. Which for me, I thought that was pretty awesome, right? This is a guy that didn't finish high school on time, and so I thought that was pretty cool. I left that job to go pursue my career in computers, and I went from like 35,000 a year to 19,000 a year, and we had a second kid, right? And so it was, but I look at that and I still think about the growth. Okay. There really wasn't a lot of places for me to go from a store manager in that situation. So I went, instead of just being there and making okay money or having an okay career, right? I said, I need to go where I can grow. And I went over here, took a huge, pay cut, but then, rose the ranks over there in that career and quickly replaced it. So I just don't recall a time where I've ran away from something that I knew was beneficial. And as far as generating that in others, That's the question. That's the question that I ask myself every day, because I'll talk to people that are constantly hampered by their fear, and you can tell them all the standard stuff. You can say, well, what happens if you don't succeed, right? And then make them think about the pain. You can say, well, who will you benefit if you do succeed? And then they think about the pleasure, and some will do it, some won't. And so I don't have, I haven't conquered the level of psychiatry or psychology needed to turn that little knob in every single human being that I've ever met. But, that sure is cool to pursue that.
Well, what's interesting though is that you have success because you're just out there setting the example. You're out there doing it. You don't, just like you talk about with your in your podcast, you don't have to say the exact right thing. You just have to keep saying it the right way over and over again. And you're doing that. You're showing people how to get out there and take action and change their habits and what they need to be doing. And I think that's spectacular. It also speaks to the value of, or the idea that you are the value of your business. It's not about the product or service or whatever it is that you actually do. You're the unique thing to your business. So be you and you'll be more successful.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, very cool. This has been such a fun conversation. I'm so glad that we were able to connect on this.
Yeah.
It wasn't what I expected though, which,
Yeah.
that's me trying to put people in boxes, right?
There you go.
Cool. So like you talk about network marketing a lot. I've had some experience with network marketing, but more with just like, I don't know what you'd think of as like traditional business ownership. How, is there really a difference, or like what does this come down to?
Yeah. I mean, and I've done that. I mean, I bought an advertising franchise years ago. I had a real estate investment company for years. I've done that, so, and I currently have, my own business, which is our coaching and training business. The things that, so what's the difference? Most people would say, well, Ray, you control it, right? You can control your own business. You can't control that network marketing thing, right? And there's some truth to that. Here's the difference. The overhead for any business I've ever had is somewhere between 100 to 10,000 times higher than network marketing, right? I mean, that's just fact. If I look at the type of advertising we do, if I look at the employees we have, the assistants, the contractors, the programmers, the designers, the graphics guys, the transcriptionists, we have pretty decent overhead when it comes to our coaching and training business. And my overhead for my network marketing business is zero, because some of these companies, they have that if you get a certain number of people in, you no longer have to pay even an auto ship, so it's zero, right? What I like about owning your own business, because I'm not a basher of businesses. The majority of people that I recruit own their own business, so I'm not a basher. I'm not someone that says, hey, network marketing is the only way to go. I'm not that guy. What I do say is it creates a very easy and systematic way for you to build a residual income. That's actually what attracted me out of corporate America in the very beginning. April 2004, I read my first book on residual income on real estate. April 2005, I had 30 rental units at that point, but we ended up with 37 rental units, and I bought them for residual income. And so we would buy these duplexes, triplexes, single family homes. We would buy them, they were in the ghetto. They would cash flow 100, 150 bucks a door or more. And so we were looking to build our portfolio. Well, we had full control, right? Well, when the market changed, the rents dropped. And so now instead of making 100, 150 a door, we're losing 200 door or more because vacancy was pretty darn high. And so all of a sudden it went from something that's like, woo, to, right? It really stung, and got my butt kicked. That scenario literally can't happen in network marketing. It cannot happen. What can happen? Company can close its doors, but if you understand the real power of network marketing, it actually isn't going to impact you as much as you would think. Okay. The real power of network marketing is community. The real power of why I get 150,000 downloads a month from my podcast that doesn't have an intro or outro, that isn't, it's me. I have my mic sitting on a box over here. It's not the most fanciest produced thing. The reason for that is audience. Okay. I know how to build an audience. In network marketing, you learn how to build a community. if you build a community, you cannot be stopped. And if you serve that community with value, if you have integrity with that community. Now, do I know that my network marketing company will be here 10 years from now? I think so. I hope so. But that isn't going to dictate my actions. I believe it's going to be here. I'm here like it is here. I'm going to provide so much value to my community. They want to be with me no matter where I go. And, and that's the real difference. So the people that have the hangups about network marketing, they're just blind to the real hangups in their own business. And so, I tell people, I love owning your own business because you can control it. You can scale it typically faster. Just to be clear, you can typically scale your own business faster than you can a network marketing company. But even though we did over $2 million in coaching and training last year, not one penny of it's residual. We got to show up. We got to do that work. We got to be on that coaching call. We got to show up to that event. We got to roll out a new blog. We got to do a webinar. Not one penny of it's residual. If I stop today, that business, it goes away. If I stop my network marketing business, still multiple six figures a year, and I can literally disappear. And, not that would be the idea, because I actually like it, but those are some of the differences in a regular standard business and network marketing business.
And I think that, even in traditional business, I think that idea of community is the thing that people underestimate the most. They always think it's about, I have to be the best plumber, or I have to be the best computer repair guy. And if I am, then everybody's going to want to do business with me.
Yep.
But then they get frustrated because that's not how it works out. No, you have to, in a way, you almost just have to be the best marketer and be a good enough at whatever it is that you do to keep up.
For sure. There's, we walked into this, my wife and I, we walked into this restaurant in our, it's a city up, but we walked into this restaurant and we had been there a couple times. Great food. And on the wall, they have proudly displayed the last 3 years, they were nominated for best kept secret, right? So there's this restaurant, best kept secret, right? And I told my wife, I'm like, you know what that means, right? And she's like, no. I'm like, that means you're the worst marketer, right? It means you have a superior product, but no one knows about it. Well, they're closed now, right? They're closed now. Great product. So there's plenty of people on here with, and that run businesses and have great products, great service, great everything. If you're not good at marketing and if you're not good at community, it doesn't matter, and that's the same, not just in traditional business, it's the same in network marketing too. There's a lot of network marketing companies that have had amazing products over the years, but if they don't get across that you need to be a marketer, you need to build community, you need to, get that value out to the marketplace, you're going to struggle too. It's not just having a better mousetrap, it's being able to market that better mousetrap.
Yeah, and I feel like I want to dig into that. There's so many things that could be behind that, though. It could just be a mindset issue. It could be they just don't know. It could be they're stubborn. It could be they're afraid to put themselves out there. There's so many ways to look at that, but you got to be able to promote yourself. And that, for me, the biggest issue was just self-confidence. I was afraid to put myself out because what if I didn't get that acceptance that I wanted?
Good point.
But as I'm learning to get past that, that's everything's opening up. That's what's making the difference. I love it.
Yeah. And that's, it's a great point because not everyone's going to like you. Not everyone's going to accept you. I probably get hate mail about once a week. It's not every day yet, but at some point, we got our goals, right? But I remember, I've done a lot. I don't know the number, maybe 50 different talks at high schools over the years where I speak about being an entrepreneur. And, there's been times where I do my little spiel and the entire class, half of them sleeping, the other half passing notes, giggling, headphones in, not paying any attention, right? And so there's been times where I wondered, should I be doing this? I'm not getting paid anything. They're not my target audience. What's the deal? But 2 weeks ago, I did a training for a group of insurance agents here in Estero, Florida. And I do this training. And afterwards, this guy comes up to me and he goes, hey, man, I just want to let you know that I was a senior in high school in 2008. And you spoke to my class and you really changed my life because you set me on a totally different path. I'd never heard what you had to say. And I just want to say thank you. I really enjoyed the seminar, but man, you really made an impact back in 2008. And I'm like, wow, So you don't know. When you play big, when you get value out there like you're doing, when you get value out there, you don't know what kind of impact. I mean, think about that. 7 years later, and he remembered my story. He goes, "Yeah, you just got an advertising franchise, and you did." He's like rattling off my story 7 years ago, and he was in a group. I didn't talk to him one on one, and so you just don't know. So you play big, and you look for, you're not addicted to the signs that everyone likes you, but you look for those signs, and you'll find them. So play big, and that there's someone out there that could really use your help.
And and the story about when you shared about reconnecting with your father and somebody came up
Yeah.
to you afterwards, we
Yeah.
never know. But it
Yeah.
really goes to the value of what we do is in connecting with people. It's in sharing our stories. It's in being our true, authentic selves. It's not
Yep.
in how much can I sell and how much can I get paid for it and how many events
Right.
can I book and all these kinds of things. I love it.
Yep.
I love it.
That'll come. If you get value out there, that'll come. And you should be strategic about it. I'm not saying be lazy about it. We've kind of been lazy about it, to be honest. So we're really we're up in our game in that department. But yeah, that'll come. You focus on community and value, and you'll build it.
I love it. Well, any closing thoughts as we wind down here, Ray?
Hey, I just hope this is pretty interesting interview. At least for me, it made me think in different ways than I thought. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you having me on here, and I hope people got value out of it.
Yeah, I'm so glad you were able to join me today. So you've got rayhigdon.com. You've got your daily podcast, home business profits.
Yep.
What else what else do you have going on? Or is that where we want to send everybody?
Yeah, that's fine. We do an annual event. Last year we had Kevin Harrington from the Shark Tank. We had Russ Whitney of real estate fame. And this year we're in Tampa, August 13th through the 16th. We're not even selling tickets yet, but we will be here, shortly. So, if you're into this sort of thing, if you want to, learn some of the strategies and marketing and prospecting strategies that have helped us build our business, feel free to check out rayhigdon.com. About 5 years of free training on that site, and feel free to enjoy that.
And you're putting up a blog post or a video or audio pretty much every single day, it seems like. I don't know how you create that much content.
We do 5 to 7 blog posts a week, and we've been doing that for 5 years. The podcast, I have to force myself to do them sometimes. I'll say that we do at least 20 a month on the podcast.
Yeah, and it's good content, whether you're in
Thanks.
network
For sure.
marketing or not. Like I get a lot out of it every day.
Cool.
I see your
Thanks.
videos on Facebook. I feel like maybe I should be in network marketing just so I can get more Ray.
Hey, that would be one way.
Awesome. Well, thanks again so much for joining me today. And
Yeah.
do you have a second to hang around? We'll chat afterwards.
Sure.
All right, let me just sign off here. And I feel like I say it every single time. I'm just totally blown away by what comes out during these interviews. So again, if you're somebody who struggles with depression or anxiety, fear, anger, resentment, jealousy, if you're frustrated with the results that you're getting, or if you're not getting the results that you want, just take from this interview that it doesn't have to be that way. You can change it. You can change your habits. You can change your beliefs. You can change your mindset. You can let go of those things. You can stop struggling. It's available for you. You don't have to know now how to get there. You just have to set your intent to eventually get there and be open to the answers. So thanks again to Ray for joining me. Thanks to you guys for watching. Until we speak again, be the person you want to be, build the business you want to build, and have the successful life you want to have.